Okay, I think we're in here. I think we're live. Welcome, world. Welcome, everybody. Man, today's exciting. Like, listen, we're all blessed. We're here. We're above ground. So that's something to be thankful about. And today we're going to be tapping in with a very special guest, and I'm going to introduce him here in just a second. But today, if you're just now joining, man, this segment today, this is about, I titled this one, The Real Cost of Invisibility in Healthcare. Again, that's the real cost of invisibility and healthcare. And I'm joined by a very special guest who goes by the name of Dr. Russell Toll. He's the owner of Compassion Neuroscience. And before we get into introducing Dr. Toll, because I see you in the background with a great smile, man, we're going to introduce you in a minute. I also want to share with everybody. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Patrick Hart, owner of PDP Media. So welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining today's LinkedIn Live. As you know, we're streaming this across multiple segments of social media. So you may be connecting with us on Facebook, you may be connecting with us on LinkedIn, or you just may be connecting with us on YouTube. Let me make sure I open up the comments box so we can see any comments that are coming in. See a couple of people to join. Thank you for joining. Remember, this comment box is open for you. So as we get to know more about Dr. Toll and his practice, or just questions about, the topic, make sure you drop those in the comment. And also shout out where you're from, like where you're joining us from around the world. First, last name, and then, where you're located as well. So again, thank you and welcome. Today's title is The Real Cost of Invisibility in Healthcare. And I'm Patrick Hart, former healthcare executive, turned influencer, full-time entrepreneur, as well as business owner of PDP Media. And we're going to be digging into why visibility is no longer an option for your healthcare, if you're a healthcare founder, or if you're in healthcare and you're running a business. So let me introduce you Dr. Toll really quick. And he's the powerhouse behind Compassion Neuroscience. It's a forward-thinking practice that's bridging neuroscience, service, and leadership. A little bit about Dr. Toll. He's a neuroscientist, a clinician, and a veteran dedicated to advancing care for trauma and mood disorders. He earned his PhD in bioengineering from Stanford University, where he specializes in TMS, EEG, and MRI. With over a decade of experience in neuromodulation and clinical research, Dr. Toll has conducted hundreds of TMS treatments and now focuses on applying brain-based technologies to real-world care. So we're going to dig into that. But before entering medicine, Dr. Toll, he graduated from West Point and served as a combined armor infantry platoon leader in Iraq's Diyala River Valley. And his unit was awarded the Valorous Unit Award for extraordinary heroism during his 14-month deployment. Man, that's a long time to be deployed. And then after Iraq, he served as a casualty officer. Wow, mind blown. Which is a role that shaped his deep commitment to improving care for Gold Star families as well as veterans. So today, Dr. Toll, he's an assistant professor of psychiatry at UT Southwestern Medical Center, where he researches depression and addiction, teaches neuromodulation techniques to residents, and leads a nonprofit clinic called Compassion Neuroscience to make cutting-edge care accessible for all those who need it most. So Dr. Toll, welcome and thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Man, this is great for me. Listen, one, your practice is super dope, and I can't wait for people to get to know more about your practice. But you personally, thank you for your service. We appreciate that, man.
Likewise.
Yeah. So let's get into the interview piece of it. I want to introduce you to the world. First thing first, did I miss anything in your bio?
Oh no, that's we kept all the good stuff and left out all the fun stuff. Yeah.
All right, so bio's perfect. Is there anything that you would like to add to that to introduce yourself to the world?
It's an interesting mix, being a tank commander and neuroscientist and clinician. So I think what really sets us apart is our veteran-centric approach, our Gold Star family approach. We have a lot of vets and a lot of Gold Star families here in North Texas, and our population, our tribe, has a lot of intangibles that can't be described easily. So when you have that vet in your life, or if that vet is you, and you're looking for a place that gets it, although those things that are hard to put into words, this is a place where you can feel at home and know that the person that's helping you get to where you need to be has been outside the wire too.
Absolutely. So talk to me about compassion neuroscience. Like the name sounds impressive. What's at the heart of what you do? Tell me more about your business.
Yeah, the compassion is our why and our how, and the neuroscience is the technology we use to make it happen. So what I saw is that TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Most people never heard of it. Don't worry, you can Google that later. But it's a very powerful technology that's recent. It was only FDA cleared in 2018 or 2008, correction. And I got to be part of the development team at Stanford that took it from that inception phase to the clinical phase. We ran a lot of studies at the Palo Alto VA, working with my fellow vets and working next door to Stanford, and we were able to get this technology to a place where it can deliver incredible results, where it's non-pharmaceutical. It is just a magnet that is very focused in its application. So it can activate parts of the brain about the size of a nickel. So we can turn them on, turn them off like a light switch. And the best way to think about TMS is like physical therapy for the mind. If you hurt your knee and had to go to physical therapy, rehab for your knee, you show up every day, do a set number of exercises, and gradually, you return strength and function to that knee. You don't show up on a Monday and run a marathon Wednesday. It's a gradual process. And TMS is very similar, where every day for a set period of time, we activate neurons. Neurons that fire together, wire together, and we force them to fire together into the pattern we want. We do that every day, gradually, getting stronger and restore that function. So that being part of that technology has just been a true privilege, and seeing what it can do in the lives of my fellow vets and the lives of the Gold Star families that we care so much about. And the clinical trials that we ran and the results we've achieved, they're in the neighborhood of 70% remission for depression and similar numbers for PTSD in its off-label use, similar results in anxiety and OCD. So it's been a really amazing thing to be a part of.
This is already sounding extremely impressive. So what you're telling me is your organization uses magnets to treat symptoms that are impacting the brain, like depression, anxiety. I think you mentioned before OCD or things like that. Say that again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very precise magnet. So it is it's a very focal effect. And the other important thing to understand here is that this is not ECT. Or electroshock therapy that some people are familiar with. This is completely different. It is fully outpatient. You don't need anyone to come with you. If you don't, it's just come in, sit down. We go through our 30 to 60-minute visit, and you can head out on your own. You don't need to wait. You don't need an attendant. You can drive in, drive out, and it's essentially painless. The chief complaint, or the number one adverse effect, is a headache that resolves in a few minutes.
Okay, I just want to tap in really quick. I had a couple of comments. I had one comment that said no sound, but I can hear you fine, Doctor. So you can hear me fine as well, right? Okay, gotcha. Perfect. All right, perfect. And is there anybody else that is experiencing no sound? Just let me know. You may want to step out and come back in, because it seems like our connection is fine, Dr. Toll, but there may be one or two people that may be having a challenge right now. So if you're just now joining us, we're joined by Dr. Toll. A little bit about Dr. Toll. He's a neuroscience clinician and veteran dedicated to advancing care for trauma for mood disorders. He earned his PhD in bioengineering from Stanford University, where he specialized in TMS, EEG, and MRI. And he has over a decade of experience in neuromodulation and clinical research. Dr. Toll, he's also conducted hundreds of TMS treatments and now focuses on applying brain-based technologies to real-world care. So we're digging a little bit about TMS, some of the applications that you treat for. We talked about anxiety, depression, mood disorders. Who is the target audience of people that would frequent your practice?
So the target audience is kind of spread in a wide net, where are the number one population we care about, and the reason I started this nonprofit clinic is Gold Star families. Okay. Because what that was the hardest job I had to do in the Army, is being the one who knocks on the door and says, "Are you Mrs. Smith, mother of Private Smith? The Secretary of the Army regrets to inform you," and you just watch the lights go out in those families. It is such a hard thing. And once that notification is done, and once the ceremonies are over, that's where I think we really need to honor our commitment to those Gold Star families and be with them for the long haul. And one of the issues I encountered was the VA takes care of the spouse and the children, but there's no provision for mom and dad or for siblings. And we know that most of our casualties, all the guys that I lost, they weren't necessarily married, but they had a mom and dad. Sure. And a lot of them had brothers and sisters. And in helping that family through that loss is our duty. It's our fundamental duty. And there just wasn't a mechanism for them to get the care they needed. I remember I had to call in, all the blue chips I could find. I knew a bird colonel here and maybe a 1-star there to try and pull the strings to get these families into the counseling they needed. And it shouldn't be that hard. And it's just fundamentally wrong for it to be that way. And, I learned that you can complain about it, write your congressman or do something about it. And, as a fellow Army veteran, Patrick, we have a bias for action. We're going to go with option 3 and make it happen ourselves.
Absolutely. So help me and the rest of the world understand like some of the pitfalls and misconceptions that your company or even the industry face as a whole.
Yeah, I think the number one challenge is knowing what TMS is. I think for the majority of people tuning in, this might be the first time you ever heard of TMS, and that's not uncommon. 90% of folks have never heard of it, which is, one of the hurdles that we need to clear immediately, because we're talking about one of the most effective, least side effects, non-pharmaceutical treatments there is for the number one disorder that's affecting folks worldwide. Like every single one of us have a family member, someone we love, or someone that we're close to being affected by this. It is not uncommon. And we have a treatment right here that can really make a difference that a lot of people aren't aware of. So that's the number one hurdle we got to get across is recognition of what it is and where it's available to do. And then the second point is understanding what it does. Right. So the 30,000 foot view of it, what TMS does is physical therapy for the mind.
I appreciate that. So we help people understand. It seems like it's non-invasive. We're not taking medications. We're simply using magnets, and we're going to be able to treat some of the affective areas of the brain to help us with coping and to move forward with our daily lives. Help me understand this. How are people going to be able to pay for your services? How do they go about paying for it? I think I'm frozen my end.
Oh, sorry. I still got you.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
That's what I like about working with a fellow Army guy, that the first thing that's going to happen is comms go out, and that's why you have to have commanders in position who don't panic, can keep the mission going, stay cool. So the second thing to know about TMS is how safe it is. So it is FDA cleared. It's been FDA cleared since 2008 and has gotten several more clearances as time has passed. And so it is cleared for adolescents, 15 years and up. It is cleared for use in pregnant women. And if you're cleared for use in those two populations, that's about as safe as aspirin to me. So it is a very accessible, very safe tool. And especially in our veteran community, one of the things I hear a lot is guys coming to me and saying, I'm not going to take one more pill. I'm tired of how it makes me feel. I'm tired of the side effects. I'll try whatever you got to try, but I'm not taking one more capsule.
So, this live is twofold. One, I wanted to introduce you, but we also want to talk about, the power of invisibility, right? Or the real cost of invisibility. So let's talk visibility for a second. In healthcare, we know the real competition, it isn't always another provider, right? We know there's providers out there, but today it's obscurity, right? It's obscurity. So Dr. Tope, before you and I, we work together, and we need to educate people. We work together. What were you experiencing in terms of visibility, credibility, as well as outreach?
It's pure ignorance, because it's just not my lane. That's not my MOS. So I'm a very good tank commander. I'm a very good neuroscientist. I'm a terrible marketer. It's just knowing what your strengths are and what your vulnerabilities are. And the rule number one that we learned in the Army is you don't fight alone. So you identify those areas that you need help with, and bring in the person that knows what they're doing. So that you're absolutely right about the competition isn't other providers. The competition is obscurity, and especially in the TMS space. I mean, we are trying to treat depression. So if every one of our TMS clinics, myself, Salience, all these other clinics, if we were at full throttle 24/7, we still wouldn't put a dent in the people who really need care. I mean, that the demand is unfortunately endless. So we've realized in this particular niche of medicine that we have far more to gain by cooperation than competition. Um, and our number one competition is getting out there because for a lot of folks, I'm sure this is the first time you've heard of compassion neuroscience, because I haven't dedicated a penny yet to marketing, because all our assets have gone into getting the equipment, making sure that the job we do is done right with the right assets before we expand further than that. And when that expansion comes, like it has now, then don't pretend that you're a Navy SEAL when you're a tank commander. You get the right person to execute that specific mission for you.
Absolutely. So we're going to tap into like brand storytelling as a credibility builder, right? And there's a few points here: is how mission-driven how mission-driven storytelling builds credibility.
Mhm.
One, it helps the public understand your work without needing a PhD. So we don't need Dr. Toll's PhD to understand, how to create visibility, especially if you're getting good at marketing. The other thing too is it tells the why behind the what. So when people are looking for like a service like TMS, which again, to this, a lot of people, they're probably just beginning to understand TMS firsthand and what it does. But I want to do a plug here.
Mhm.
Dr. Toll and I, we created a behind the scenes video to help people navigate what his facility looks like, introduce you to the technology that he's using, and discuss the outcomes that he's creating, plus the people that is likely to impact positively the most. So we did that. And the reason why we did that is because we know right now, people, they're going to research you well before they even show up to your facility now. Right. So we wanted to give them like a behind the scenes tour, help them understand more about Dr. Toll, his credentials, his background, his service, but then also introduce you to his facility, introduce you to the technology, so you can see firsthand that it's truly non-invasive. What we're talking about today, it actually exists in person, and this is not just something to fluff up. So visibility is one of those things we need to be looking at. How do we use it for growth? Google is no longer just a nice to have. It's truly your referral source right now. So if we're not tapping into Google and those services, we're missing out from a marketing standpoint. We're missing out on the impact standpoint, and we're missing out from a revenue standpoint, right? And then patients and partners, they research you before calling. So you need to be aware of that if you want to stand out from the likes of everybody else that compete in a similar space, that we have to get really, really good at telling our story before someone ever connects with us. And because if you don't control your narrative, someone else or no one will. So that's important. You want to think about that. So let's talk about what visibility looks like in a practice. We want to use real steps to spotlight your facility and your leadership, right? So update your web presence with mission-driven language, right? We're going to talk about that outcomes. Use social media to humanize your leadership. So we've connected and we talked about Dr. Toll and how he's a Stanford graduate. He's got his bachelor's degree and his you got your master's and your PhD from Stanford University, correct? Because you got your bachelor's from when you was attending West Point. Remember that? And then the other thing we look at is you want to create 1 or 2 branded videos. And these branded videos should be like a founder story. It could be 1. 2 would be a patient transformation. So now we're talking about the outcome of what your services provide. And then there could be a third one in there too, where the third one is going to be like what we did for Dr. Toll, which is the behind the scenes. We kind of did a combination of the founder story and the patient transformation into one, but those could easily be separate videos, or like we did for Dr. Toll, we put it together. And then the other thing too is by branding yourself visually, it positions you as a thought leader, not only just across LinkedIn, not just across Google, but across YouTube or wherever you post your video snippets as well. So Dr. Toll, let me point this out, my cursor right there. Dr. Toll's leadership is blending science, service, and strategy. So talk to me about how that informs your day-to-day decisions today.
Right. That outreach, that visibility, is so key, because the two things that you said that really resonated are the humanize. It's got, we can tell pretty easily whether something's authentic or not, and that's got to be a core competency in today's age, when when something has been slapped together in an artificial environment, when it's in service of the algorithm and not in service of your neighbor.
Absolutely.
And that's what's easy to parse apart, and what I really appreciate you bringing to the table, because that again, it's just not my lane. You cannot be good at everything. You know what your core competencies are. Mine are being a good healer and taking care of my fellow vets. That marketing, that understanding, that SEO outreach, that isn't my core competency, and that's fine. That I don't have the bandwidth for that. So you need to be able to access someone you trust, who conveys their trust to your establishment. So that's what I really appreciate you doing, is effectively being an ambassador, to carry that message from a trusted voice, not to the cable network channels, but to our
Right.
people, to our community, to our one-to-one outreach, where you're not telling them about the business, you're telling them about the people.
I think what you're doing is extremely cool, and it's one of those practices that I visit that I was extremely excited about visiting, for a couple of different reasons. I think the main reason is because it's a tool, it's technology that I was unfamiliar with myself. And then as a veteran like yourself, who frequently takes medications for headaches or anxiety or depression or things like that, I wanted to see, is there an option versus taking these medications? And what I learned from visiting you and understanding more about your practice, it truly is. And I could simply go to your practice, spend 15 minutes up to an hour with your technology, and walk away feeling refreshed and renewed. And I just thought that was so impactful. I thought that was so dope. I was like, wow, now I don't have to use medications anymore. So again, if you're just now joining, we're joined by Dr. Toll. We're talking about, his organization, which is Compassion Neuroscience. We're discussing his background. We're discussing the power of brand visibility, especially moving with intention. And then some of the steps that you should take as a founder or business owner, specifically in healthcare, to make sure your story is told, so we can get your different and better story out there. So Dr. Toll, I got a couple of follow-up questions here.
Sure.
We talk about branded video. What are you going to get from that? There's going to be increased inquiries. Of course, you're going to get trust. There's going to be engagement. But then there's the authority piece, the authority-focused media. It opens doors to potential partnerships, press, events. And like you're a nonprofit. There may be other people who are interested in funding opportunities where they're connecting with you as well. So that's pretty interesting. And then there's clear, compelling stories that attract talent as well as boost culture. So when we're thinking about branding, it's multiple pronged fold. Not only is it getting your information out there for your patients, but it's establishing what your culture looks like and attracting people to your organization that resonate with your mission and your purpose. So he's also getting the best of both worlds. I also want to mention that PDP Media, which is my company, we offer custom storytelling, video branding, and leadership elevation for healthcare professionals. So Dr. Toll, what would you say to a healthcare founder who's afraid to put themselves out there?
That you have to confront that fear.
So did I lose you? Okay, go ahead.
You can either confront that fear and survive, or accept the status quo and stagnate. So that it's a hard. I get it. It is a hard decision, where you don't want your attention to be taken away from the practice. I want to show up here and see people get better day in and day out. I don't want to have to go and sit with a spreadsheet and think about SEO and, is this algorithm right? I mean, that's just not human. That's not what I'm here to do as a clinician. So you need to have a trusted advisor in that space who's that is their MOS, their specialty, their lane, and what they know. So you gotta trust someone who can take that wheelhouse for you, and above all understands what we're trying to achieve. I'm not trying to achieve X number of dollars. I'm trying to achieve number of lives saved. That's our metric of success here. Is if it's got to be in service of that mission. So you need to work with someone who understands your brand, and brand for us is compassion. That's our lead off word, because what we do first and foremost as that nonprofit is those Gold Star families, they never pay. That it has been our North Star, our guiding principle here is that those families have already given everything, and it's going to be our job to make sure that we can get them to a place where they can live a life that would make their loved one proud. That is our objective, and they're not going to pay a penny for it. And for all of our other veterans, we all know our buddies who you got to check in on every 2 weeks or so. Is I've got a long list of incredibly heroic guys. I know guys with the Silver Star who worry me on a day-to-day basis, and you got to make sure that you're bringing them in and making them aware of this technology, this treatment. And here at Compassion Neuroscience, we treat them at cost. So we're, nonprofit means that our objective is not to make a profit. Our objective is to get another W on the board for a number of lives we've saved.
I love that. I mean, everybody else, you should love that too. We're talking about an Army veteran who's leading with compassion as well as empathy, and he's making a real difference in the world of healthcare by using TMS technology. Once again, you want to go on my LinkedIn page, you look at the services page, you see a video that we did behind the scenes, or go to my YouTube page, That Healthcare Guy. You can take a look at the video that we did for Dr. Toll as well. But more importantly, just don't look at the video. Look at the services that he's provided. Look at the tools that he's using. Look at the outcomes and the impact that he's making with this technology, which is amazingly cool. So, Doc, I want to open this up here. How do people connect with you?
You connect with us on our website, compassionneuroscience.org.
Compassionneuroscience.org. So we want to, Dr. Toll, I want to thank you. But before we close this out, is there any parting words that you would like to leave for the viewers?
The parting words I'd like to leave are specifically targeted to our fellow veterans, and especially after Memorial Day. It is a time that's deeply reflective for us, and this is also a time when those challenges surge. So I want you, fellow vets, to remember our code of conduct, that I will never surrender of my own free will. And if you're in that spot, if you're in that fight, you never fight alone. The net is open. If you need that help, get on the net, and the first cav will be there.
Dr. Toll, thank you very much for sharing both the science as well as the story behind Compassion Neuroscience. And so here's my call to action for everybody that's watching this live or on replay. If you're a healthcare leader and you're ready to step outside of the shadows and into a strategic spotlight, let's connect. Make sure you DM me. You know how to connect with me across all my social channels, That Healthcare Guy. Also want to mention too that, our first consult is free. So I'm not charging to have a consult to help explore behind the scenes of what your different and better story looks like. And then I would invite you to continue to follow me and my content. Make sure you comment, make sure you share, you hit the follow button. And then I would encourage folks, lastly, check out Compassion Neuroscience. Check them out, see what they're doing, see what that dope technology is about, and make sure you let Dr. Toll know you've seen him live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, or Facebook. Until the next one, let's get it.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate you, man.
All right.